First of all, just start with Jack Butland in the England squad. Just spoken to him. Obviously, he's pleased. Your thoughts on him and how he's been this season?
Yeah, I think that I think Jack himself will say the first game he was like many others that perhaps didn't perform as well as he would like, but straight away after it's a difficult one for him because he came off the back of the World Cup, didn't get a lot of break, came back early on his own volition because he wanted to get back into the group. But since then, I think he's been really good. He's been really good. He's shown what quality he's got. He's got a great presence for a young goalkeeper, and then I think technically he's got kind of everything you want really for a goalkeeper, and tactically he's a really bright lad as well. You can get him in front of a tactics board and he can come up with a lot of the solutions when you're talking about playing out and and some of the finer points of the game. So I think he's deserved to be in the squad. Of course, you're always a little bit concerned when you drop into a championship that might not be the case, but yeah, it's nice to see him in there, and I think that's a reward for him not jumping ship, if you like, to any opportunity he's had. He's kept faith in Stoke, and he's determined to keep his England place, but also determined to get us back to where we want to be.
Gareth Southgate did say in his press conference it will be a challenge for Jack to stay in the squad because he's not playing in the Premier League. Does that put unwanted pressure on players to go elsewhere?
Well, look, I hugely respect Gareth, and of course it's his job to pick what he thinks the best squad for them. But the only thing I would say with that is regardless of what division, if you're in the Premier League, the only thing that gives you really is more exposure. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're not playing fantastically well. So I don't think Jack as a goalkeeper will change whether he's playing in the Championship or the Premier League. So, but of course they have to make that decision. All I would hope is that he's judged on his performances rather than which division he's playing in.
Right, let's talk about a couple of other things. Cedro Berahino, first goal. He's obviously pleased that you kept faith with him. What's he been like since then?
Yeah, look, I mean we've not trained that much since the game, but I think that the celebration afterwards, where he didn't do a lot, because I think he was a little bit startled, shall we say, and he might have to start thinking about some of those if his confidence continues. But I think it was a response of all the rest of the players. I think it was a response of the crowd. So if you look at virtually everybody ran over to him to celebrate, which I think shows he's earned the trust of his mates back by working incredibly hard for the team. His goal was deserved on the back of some good performances where he hasn't had too many chances, but the ones he's had, he's looked bright and he's looked sharp. And I thought the crowd were excellent as well, because for someone who the club have spent a lot of money and perhaps hasn't done what they brought him in to do, which is score goals, of course. But the crowd, I think, showed the support for him as well, because the place erupted. With what fans, because there wasn't loads of fans there because it was obviously a cup game, but they got right behind him, made a lot of noise, and I think were really relieved also that he got off the mark, because they knew it was a key moment. So yeah, he's been fine. He's been bright this morning, and I'm sure he'll be looking to, hopefully, if selected. I'll be a brave man to leave Sido out, wouldn't I, if after he scored in the first time in 2.5 years. But ultimately it's one goal. The rest of the team have also worked hard, and we'll have to make good decisions for this weekend's game, regardless of whether it's his old club or not. Well,
that's the script writers would have it, wouldn't it, that his next game is against his old club?
Yeah, but for me that doesn't come into it. I'll never pick a team on that sort of emotional attachment to what clubs they've been at. I'll pick the team. We'll have a different tactical challenge against West Brom. They play they play a 5 at the back, and one just off a front two. So it gives us something different to think about, and it might be that we choose not to go with a second striker, or we choose not to go with a number 10. And if that's the case, then he might have to wait. But ultimately, of course, someone who's played well and scored, you want to get them back out there and see if they can continue that, building that confidence.
As they obviously were relegated with Stoke last season, are they a club you can measure yourself against?
To a certain degree, yes. I think if you look at the core of each group, it's slightly different. I think we've got a far more sort of multinational squad, if you like. I think theirs has got a lot of players that have played at the top end of the Championship, and a lot of players that physically, have performed at that level before. So I think it's a different challenge, but ultimately they're a team like us. They've come down. Everybody wants to start well. We've probably started the poorer out the 3 relegated teams, and we want to try and atone to that. And 2 wins in a week, I think, is a good way to start. But we're of course a long way from where we want to be. So we've got to keep working hard.
Is it a corner turned?
I think only the future will dictate whether that is the right statement to make. But what I would say is we've seen some good signs. I mean, it's the first time in about a year that the club have won 2 games on the spin. I think it's the first time in about 6 months we've had 2 back-to-back clean sheets. So it's a good start. It's something we haven't done for a while, regardless of the division. It's good habits to get into, and what we want to do now is we want to build on what looks like a team with just a little bit more synergy, a little bit more understanding, and of course a little bit more confidence. They should be confident because they should be able to perform to this level every week and beyond, and that's what we're hoping to do. We're hoping to just drag out the confidence and the form back into those players, and I think you've started to see that come out in the majority of them.
Imbula's gone out on loan again for another season. What's the thinking behind that? Are his Stoke days over, do you think?
Yeah, look, I think when a player's been at a club for a long time and for a while, and perhaps not lived quite up to the billing, we know Gianni's a good player. I think what you sometimes find is the cultural fit with England is not an easy one to find, and maybe that's been difficult for him to adapt to that. But I think you have to get to a point and say, is that player going to affect what we're doing? And the decision we made pre-season was probably not. But he's worked hard. He's conducted himself well since he's been here, and I think it's a good opportunity for him to go and get his career going again.
Just finally, any other team news, any injuries to worry about?
No, we've got, as usual, Tuesday night, we've got a couple of knocks. You've got 2 or 3 players that have played the second game in a week or in the space of 3 or 4 days that perhaps haven't done that for a while. So we've tried to sort of unload a little bit in terms of the intensity today. But what we'll do is we'll come in tomorrow ready to go again, and I would imagine we'd have more or less the same players to pick from.
Thanks, Gary.
I owe you an apology actually, because I actually was standing right here and I was sort of saying, well, previous Stoke managers have tried and failed with Sido. You have succeeded in scoring, and he's doing it on the pitch. What have you done that's so different to the predecessors?
Well, look, I think we'll only know whether we've succeeded if he can do that over a period of time. But I understand what you're saying. So I think we had a similar situation with Matty Vidra last season. I mean, a player that was perhaps a little bit low on confidence, a player that hadn't played to the value of what the club had paid and expected. And I think what you have to do with that is you just have to try and find a way to motivate that player into performing. But at the same time, I think what I tried to do with Sido was be quite honest early on. I think he's the type of player that you can't look at 1 or 2 things he does and just disregard him, because I think if you lose that faith and he feels like you've lost faith in him, then he very quickly lose motivation. So I think what he's done is I outlined to him just what I felt he needed to do, and what he's done is he's shown a better maturity this season. He's shown a willingness to at least try to atone for some of the things and admit responsibility for himself. And he's worked hard, and we've got people around. We spoke about Kev Phillips. We've got people around the place, coaches who will spend time speaking to him and trying to find out what it is that he feels like he needs to do himself. So I think it's easy to show faith in people this early in the season. I'm sure that everybody probably did that in the early part of Sido's career with each individual manager. What he's got to do is now he's got to maintain that work ethic and maintain that hunger to do that. But what I would say is, I think I noticed in Monday. So Monday, everyone else had gone in. I think people like to paint Sido as some sort of poor character, but when everyone was in Monday, he was still out there 20 minutes later practicing his finishing on his own with no coaches around. So I think he's shown a level of desire to try to turn his own career around. So I think really, rather than us get credit for that, then I think the credit really should go to him alone, and he's got to maintain that, and he's got to keep doing the right things.
Well, you say that, but I mean, one of the things that your predecessors would say was, "Oh yes, he can do it," but then they wouldn't play him. You've actually had the courage to play him a few games in a row, give him a run. I think that's really made the difference, ain't it?
Yeah, maybe, but again, I mean, he's done enough in those games. I think if we had played 3 games and he hadn't worked hard and hadn't scored, then he'd have probably belied the same fate. And that's the reality, I think. But what he's done is he's given us enough that when he's maybe playing him off the front and not. The first thing we noticed was he's very good in possession, little possession games. He doesn't give the ball away. He can play off both feet. He can start attacks. And we just felt maybe from a slightly deeper position that he could affect games in that way. So maybe changing to 4-2-3-1 formation has actually given him a chance to play in a different role rather than be defined purely as a number 9. So we've given him the opportunity, and that's how we've tried to manage as a group in the past. We've tried to see the best in players, and we've tried to show faith in them. But of course, that has to be repaid quickly, and it has to be repaid quickly when you're not winning games. And I don't think any player will get enough games unless they perform. But he showed some good signs at the start.
Do you anticipate any more players going out before the window closes?
Possibly, I would imagine there'd be 1 or 2 possibilities going out. Probably less possibilities going in at this stage. Again, if we get a surprise deal that happens late on today, for example, then it might be that we look at a way to strengthen. I think with Kuko coming into the building, who can also play left back, I think the only area that you could argue we've not got as much depth as some of the other areas is perhaps out wide, really. But we've still got 4 players who can play out there, and probably 5 players that if we can play out there if you add Moritz to that mix, because of course he's played wide midfield as well. So I think for me it's more about trying to settle the squad back down. The squad's starting to feel like it's got a little bit more togetherness about it and a little bit more spirit, and I think that can only happen when you get some of the players who perhaps don't see the future at the club immediately out the building, so we can you can have players who are positive about what they're trying to achieve, and we've certainly seen that a lot more recently. So I think they're some of the wins that we've had by making some changes and changing the squad around, and hopefully we'll continue to do that. But I don't imagine a lot of activity in the last day.
How are you viewing the cups? Obviously, League Cup win in the week, ball 26 in tonight's draw. So for you're starting to get a big squad now, and you look at the midfield that you've got and think where they're all going to fit in. The cups are a good opportunity for you, aren't they, to play these players and also to have a decent run?
Yeah, look, I think again I've probably been guilty of it in the past, where I've probably looked at the league as the most important. I think every manager looks and says, "Oh, can I do without him getting an injury as a key player?" So you tend to just take the safe bet, and then sometimes you sort of go back to when you was a player. I mean, I played 1 season at Leicester. I think I played something like, I missed 2 minutes of like 55 games, I think, and you look and say, wow, am I really looking at resting players after 5 games of the season? It seems almost quite ridiculous to do that. So the only reason you would do it really is to motivate the players that are not playing regularly, and most managers will do that because it's hard to keep a squad happy if you don't give them some opportunities. That's why we gave Adam Federici in particular, because I felt as if I'd have picked Jack Butland and gone with the same team again, then what motivation has Adam got really? And it's a chance for him to feel alive in a game. So I think this season, maybe due to our start, we view the cups as an opportunity to, like I said earlier in the earlier stat, we've got to try and create a winning culture, and you can't do that if you take some games less seriously than other games. So I think we're at a point where we just got to go out and try and win every game. But you're right, we've got a good squad, and we can make changes we make changes in league games. I don't think I think we've got enough players to change things tactically if we need to. And we're getting very close to a squad where you could almost play any of them. And I think I'd trust them to go out there and have a chance of getting a result.
Home draw, obviously.
It depends who it's against, really. Put it this way, I think before your league game last season, we got the easy draw of Man United away. We managed to last about 86 minutes, and the goal went in, and Jose Mourinho said to me, "Do you know why the players are celebrating so much?" He says, "Because they're going to Dubai next week, because they've won." So you can face some brilliant games and some brilliant opposition. I think ultimately, if you want to advance, of course, a home draw is the first thing you want, and then in an ideal world, not one of the big boys who can put any number of players in their squad and still have a Premier League side.
That's a good motivation for Saturday if you win. thing to Dubai?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I mean, our championship budget at the moment, I think for trips like that would probably be, maybe to Wrexham for the weekend, or don't want to offend anyone in Wrexham, by the way, with that.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
With winning 2 games on the bounce, after the West Brom game, obviously the international break is back, do you view it as any sort of hindrance with the timing of it, given you're just starting to build a bit of momentum?
Yeah, no, I think you view it as what it is. You know that comes before the start of the season. Whether you've won games, you get a breather, a chance to reflect. And when when you haven't won games, you can look at it a different way. But I think ultimately we always plan for those breaks. I think what you tend to do, if you think we've been back for sort of 8 or 9 weeks, pretty solid, working quite hard, and you always give the players a tiny bit of downtime. But I think we're going to use this break a little bit more to get some work into the players that are here. So we'll still train a number of days. And we'll get a bit of chance to spend time with the family, but I think it's a chance really to reflect on the opening period of a season, and how we can improve regardless of the results, regardless of what happens Saturday. So that's how we'll use it. We won't have too many players left. The staff are all debating. Peter Etebo plays a friendly for Nigeria in the Seychelles. We're all debating whether 5 of us should go and watch the game to show our support for him, which is something we might put to the club this afternoon, and as an official scouting trip, of course.
And then just on Julian Ngoy, you sent him out on loan to Grasshoppers Zurich. He went to Walsall last season. Was there any reason why you chose to send him abroad this season, or was it purely about sending him somewhere where he'll get some game time and hopefully develop a bit more?
I think at this point I'd like to give you a really technical answer, but the reality is it's because Zurich came in, Grasshoppers came in for him. It was deemed as a good opportunity for him. It was one that he wanted to pursue as well. And I think when you get to that point of players that don't look as close to the first team as maybe you'd like them to, then you've got to go and get the best level of football for him. Some loans are development loans, some loans are there to try and increase a player's value and give them an opportunity to play at a higher level. And we'll view them in all different ways, but it's a good opportunity for him to go there and show what he can do, because I don't think he perhaps played to his potential last year at Walsall, so he needs to go and have a strong loan this time.
Great, thanks, folks.
Thanks, Gary.
Guys, thank you.